I sat in that oversized conference room watching my colleague Derek advance through a PowerPoint presentation that made my stomach turn. Slide after slide, chart after chart, every single element looked familiar because I had created them. 3 months of late nights, sacrificed weekends, and endless coding sessions all being presented by Derek as if he had done the work himself. The CEO nodded approvingly while Derek spoke with the confidence of someone describing their own creation. My heart pounded against my ribs, my palms grew damp, but I stayed silent, frozen by disbelief and uncertainty about what to do next. Before we dive into what happened, let me know in the comments where you are watching from. If you have ever dealt with workplace betrayal, hit that like button and subscribe, because you will want to see how this story ends. Stick around to see how I made sure he never stole from anyone again. Let me take you back 3 months before that devastating meeting. My name is Tobias, and at 28 years old, I worked as a data analyst at TechVista Solutions, a software analytics company based in Seattle. I had been there for 2 years, and honestly, I loved my job. Our team consisted of 8 people, all reporting to Jennifer, a manager who genuinely cared about her employees and trusted us to do good work. Among my colleagues was Derek, a senior analyst about 5 years older than me, who had a reputation for being an excellent mentor. I actually looked up to Derek back then because of his experience and the way he seemed willing to share knowledge with junior team members. The idea for my project came to me on an ordinary Tuesday morning. I was manually compiling analytics reports, a tedious process that ate up hours every week when I realized our entire company was wasting valuable time on outdated procedures. That is when it hit me. What if I could build an automated dashboard system that would streamline our entire workflow? I got excited about the possibility and decided to share the concept during our next team meeting. When I presented my initial thoughts to the group, Derek listened carefully, nodding along and eventually calling it a solid idea. He encouraged me to research it further and see where it could go. Jennifer also seemed interested, but explained that since it fell outside my regular responsibilities, I would need to work on it during my own time if I wanted to pursue it. I did not mind at all. This felt like my chance to make a real impact and maybe even earn a promotion. For the next 3 months, that project consumed my life. I started staying late at the office, working through weekends, teaching myself technologies I had never used before. I dove deep into Python programming, SQL database integration, and advanced visualization tools. I even spent nights studying machine learning algorithms to optimize the data processing capabilities. Most evenings, I would get home around 2 or 3 in the morning, my eyes burning from staring at code for so many hours straight. My girlfriend Sarah started complaining that we never spent time together anymore. She would call during dinner and I would be too focused on debugging a function to give her my full attention. One Saturday, she showed up at my apartment expecting us to go hiking like we used to, but I had to tell her I needed to keep working. The disappointment in her face hurt, but I explained this was temporary. This project could change my career trajectory, and I just needed her to be patient a little longer. Throughout this period, Derek would occasionally stop by my desk and ask how things were progressing. I appreciated what I thought was genuine interest from a senior colleague. Sometimes I would excitedly show him what I had accomplished that week, walking him through technical challenges I had overcome, or new features I had implemented. Derek always seemed supportive, offering words of encouragement and occasionally asking questions that I interpreted as him trying to help me think through problems. At one point, I even sent Derek several technical documents and prototype screenshots through email asking for his feedback on my approach. He would respond with short messages like, "Looks good, keep going," or "Interesting direction." I felt grateful to have someone more experienced taking an interest in my work. By the end of month 3, I had finally completed the dashboard. Testing it with real company data produced results that exceeded even my optimistic projections. The system could reduce analysis time by 60% while increasing accuracy by 35%. I spent another week polishing the presentation slides and writing comprehensive documentation that explained every feature and function. I saved everything meticulously to both my personal drive and our team's shared folder, making sure I had backups of all my work. Feeling proud and nervous, I scheduled a meeting with Jennifer for the following Monday to present my completed project. When I told Derek about my plan, he congratulated me enthusiastically and said he was certain the CEO would take notice of work this impressive. His encouragement made me feel even more confident about the upcoming presentation. Monday morning arrived, and I came into the office earlier than usual, wanting to review my presentation one final time before meeting with Jennifer. But as I settled at my desk with my coffee, an email notification popped up from Jennifer with a red exclamation mark indicating urgency. The message read, "CEO wants to discuss innovation initiative. Full team attendance required. Conference room A10 a.m." I felt confused, but also a flutter of excitement. Maybe this was actually a better opportunity. Perhaps Jennifer had mentioned my project to upper management, and now I would get to present it to a larger audience. I grabbed my laptop and headed to the conference room a few minutes early. When I walked in, I saw CEO Marcus already seated at the head of the table along with Jennifer and several other members of the leadership team I rarely interacted with. Then I noticed Derek dressed in a crisp navy suit I had never seen him wear before, standing near the projection screen with his laptop already connected. Something felt off, but I could not pinpoint exactly what. Marcus opened the meeting with his usual authoritative tone. "Thank you all for making time this morning. Derek has brought forward a proposal that I believe deserves our immediate attention." He gestured toward Derek. "The floor is yours." Derek clicked to his first slide and my breath caught in my throat. The title read, "Automated Analytics Dashboard, a Comprehensive Solution" by Derek Whitman. My brain struggled to process what my eyes were seeing. That was my project title. Those were my words. Derek began speaking with smooth confidence. "Over the past 3 months, I have been dedicating my personal time to researching a critical inefficiency in our current analytics workflow." He clicked to the next slide, which outlined the exact pain points I had identified. I recognized that our manual processes were costing the company significant time and reducing our accuracy rates. Each slide that appeared made my chest tighter. There was my architecture diagram. There were my performance metrics. There was my cost-benefit analysis with the precise numbers I had calculated. Derek walked through the presentation as if he had lived every moment of creating it, explaining technical decisions with the knowledge he had gained from the documents I had foolishly shared with him. Marcus leaned forward, clearly impressed. "This is exactly the kind of forward thinking we need." Derek talked me through the implementation timeline. Derek had an answer ready, of course, because it was the timeline I had drafted. When Marcus asked about specific technical challenges, Derek responded smoothly, drawing from the detailed explanations I had written in my documentation. I sat there feeling like I was watching a nightmare unfold in slow motion. My hands trembled slightly, and I could feel sweat forming along my hairline. Part of me wanted to stand up and shout that this was my work, but another part felt paralyzed by the surreal nature of what was happening. Finally, I raised my hand, my voice coming out less steady than I wanted. "Excuse me, I have a question. Marcus turned toward me. "Yes, Tobias." I swallowed hard. "This project looks very familiar. Derek, where did you source your research and development?" Derek did not even hesitate. His response came out perfectly casual. "Ah, Tobias, you asked me a few technical questions last month. Remember, I may have shared some conceptual frameworks with the team during that time. Perhaps that is why it seems familiar to you." He smiled in a way that appeared friendly to everyone else but felt like a slap to me. "I always believe in collaborative knowledge sharing." Marcus nodded approvingly. "That is good mentorship right there, Derek." I felt my face flush hot. He had just reframed my entire project as him mentoring me, making it sound like I had merely asked him for help with concepts that were originally his. I wanted to protest to explain that I had emails and files proving otherwise, but sitting there in front of the CEO and leadership team, I could not find the words. I had no evidence immediately at hand, and speaking up further risked making me look bitter or jealous of a senior colleague. Jennifer glanced at me with a questioning expression, but she remained silent. Marcus spent another 15 minutes discussing implementation details with Derek before making his decision. "Let us move forward with this immediately. Derek, I am putting you in charge as project lead. I also want to see a formal proposal for the bonus structure this kind of innovation deserves." The meeting ended with people congratulating Derek and discussing next steps. I gathered my things mechanically and walked back to my desk feeling like my legs might give out. Once I sat down, I opened my email and file directories with shaking hands, desperately searching for evidence. But as I looked through everything, I realized how clever Derek had been. He had accessed our shared folder late one night and copied all my files to his personal drive. Then he had removed them from the shared space, leaving only traces that could be explained away. The prototype screenshots I had sent him via email were there, but they lacked clear timestamps showing I had created the underlying work. Everything appeared ambiguous enough that Derek could claim collaborative development or mentorship. I called my best friend Kyle during my lunch break, sitting in my car because I could not stand being in the office. When I told him what happened, he immediately said I needed to go to HR. But fear crept into my thoughts. What if nobody believed me? What if they thought I was just a junior employee jealous of a senior colleague's success? What if reporting this somehow backfired and cost me my job? That night, I could not sleep. Sarah came over and found me staring at my laptop screen at midnight, still going through files. When she asked what was wrong, I finally told her everything. Her reaction was immediate anger. "Tobias, you cannot let him get away with this. You worked yourself to exhaustion for 3 months. You have to fight back." Her words stayed with me through the sleepless night. The next morning, I made my decision. I walked directly to the HR department and asked to speak with Patricia, the HR director. She brought me into a private office and I explained everything from the beginning, my voice occasionally shaking with emotion. I showed her the fragments of evidence I had, the emails with vague references, the remaining file metadata, anything that might support my claim. Patricia listened without interrupting, taking detailed notes. When I finished, she asked, "Do you have any email communications with Derek specifically about this project?" I pulled up several messages where I had sent him documents or asked for his thoughts on my progress. They were not as definitive as I hoped, but they existed. Patricia studied them carefully, then looked at me directly. "Tobias, I want you to know that we take intellectual property theft very seriously. I am going to launch a formal investigation, but I need you to promise me something. Do not discuss this situation with anyone else in the office while we look into it. Can you do that?" I nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and anxiety. At least someone was taking me seriously. Over the following days, Derek's star continued to rise while I struggled to focus on my regular work. A company-wide email went out praising Derek's innovative thinking and announcing his upcoming presentation to the board of directors. Meanwhile, Derek started treating me like a subordinate, assigning me small tasks related to his project. "Tobias, can you pull together this data compilation for me? I am swamped with the bigger picture stuff." He would say his tone friendly, but with an undertone that made my skin crawl. I would force a smile and do what he asked, swallowing my rage because Patricia had told me to act normal. My coworkers congratulated Derek repeatedly, and each time I had to pretend I was happy for him. Kyle kept texting me, asking if HR had made any progress. All I could tell him was to be patient. What I did not know was that Patricia and her team were conducting a thorough investigation behind the scenes. She had immediately contacted our IT department and requested access logs for our shared folder system. The IT specialist discovered something crucial. Derek had downloaded every single file from my project folder at 2:15 a.m. on a Tuesday night, exactly 2 weeks before his presentation to Marcus. Patricia also went through our email server records with permission from legal. She found the messages I had sent Derek and, more importantly, She could see the metadata showing when I had created and sent those documents. The timestamps clearly indicated I had been working on the project for months before Derek suddenly became interested. Next, Patricia scheduled individual conversations with people who might have relevant information. She spoke privately with Jennifer, who confirmed that I had mentioned my dashboard idea during a team meeting 3 months earlier. Jennifer admitted feeling confused during Derek's presentation because she remembered me being the one excited about automation. Patricia interviewed several other team members as well. 2 of them recalled seeing me at the office late into the evening, and one specifically remembered me talking enthusiastically about my secret project that I hoped would impress management. The most damning evidence came from our cloud storage system's version history. Patricia's team discovered that the original files had been created and modified exclusively by my user account for nearly 3 months. Derek's account only showed access activity in the final 2 weeks, and it consisted entirely of viewing and downloading with no actual creation or substantive editing. Finally, Patricia did something I had not expected. She pulled Derek's employment records and contacted HR at his previous company. It turned out Derek had left that job under circumstances involving complaints from junior staff members about him taking credit for their work. The previous employer had not documented it formally to avoid legal issues, but the HR representative remembered the situation clearly. 2 weeks after my initial meeting with Patricia, she called me back to her office. I walked there with my heart racing, terrified that she was going to tell me they could not prove anything. Instead, when I sat down, Patricia smiled. "Tobias, thank you for bringing this matter to our attention and for your patience during our investigation." She slid a folder across the desk to me. Inside were printed copies of access logs, email records with highlighted timestamps, version histories, and statements from witnesses. The evidence was overwhelming. We have confirmed that Derek engaged in intellectual property theft and fraudulent misrepresentation. This is a serious violation of our code of conduct. Patricia's voice was firm but kind. "We will be addressing this immediately. I want you to know that you did the right thing by reporting it, and you should continue your normal work. We will handle everything from here." For the first time in 2 weeks, I felt like I could breathe properly. 3 days later, Derek was summoned to a meeting with Patricia, the legal department, and CEO Marcus. I was not present, but Patricia gave me a full summary afterward. During that meeting, Patricia presented every piece of evidence methodically. Derek tried to maintain his story, at first claiming that he and I had worked collaboratively and that the project represented team effort. But when Patricia showed him the access logs proving he had taken the files in the middle of the night, his explanation faltered. "These files were in a shared folder. I had every right to access them," Derek argued. Patricia countered by pointing out that accessing shared resources was different from claiming sole authorship and credit. She then presented the email chain showing I had sent him materials asking for feedback, not offering collaboration. The version history made it impossible for Derek to claim he had contributed to the actual creation of any component. Marcus, who had been listening with an increasingly dark expression, finally spoke. "Derek, I specifically asked you during your presentation if this was entirely your work. You said yes. You looked me in the eye and lied to me." Derek tried one more defense, suggesting that mentorship sometimes blurred the lines of ownership, but even he seemed to know it was over. Marcus stood up. "I built this company on integrity. What you did does not just violate our policies. It violates everything I believe about how we should treat each other." He turned to Patricia. "What are our options?" Patricia laid them out clearly. Given the severity of the misconduct, the evidence, and Derek's previous history, she recommended immediate termination without severance. Marcus agreed without hesitation. Derek was fired that afternoon. Security escorted him from the building after he cleaned out his desk, and just like that, his time at Tech Vista Solutions ended. The next morning, Marcus called me to his office. I had no idea what to expect as I took the elevator to the executive floor. When I entered, Marcus stood and extended his hand. "Tobias, I owe you an apology. I should have asked more questions during that presentation. I should have verified claims before making decisions. His handshake was firm, his expression serious. What Derek did was unacceptable, and I am sorry you had to experience that. He told me that he was immediately reassigning the project to me as the rightful owner and creator. Furthermore, he was promoting me to senior data analyst effective immediately, along with a bonus equivalent to 6 months of my salary. I honestly did not know what to say. The validation felt overwhelming after weeks of doubt and anger. That afternoon, Marcus sent a company-wide email setting the record straight. He explained that the automated dashboard project had been created entirely by me, that there had been a serious misconduct issue with the previous announcement, and that going forward, I would be leading the implementation. He also used the situation to reinforce the company's values around integrity and intellectual honesty. Jennifer stopped by my desk later looking genuinely apologetic. I should have spoken up during that meeting. I knew something felt wrong. I'm sorry I did not trust my instincts. Several coworkers came by to congratulate me, though a few looked embarrassed about how enthusiastically they had praised Derek before. The whole experience felt surreal. Over the next 2 months, I led a team in implementing the dashboard system across the entire company. The results exceeded our projections. Productivity increased by 58%, accuracy improved by 40%, and we calculated annual savings of approximately $200,000. Marcus presented our case study at an industry conference, crediting me by name and bringing me along to answer technical questions. I even got invited to speak at several tech meetups about innovation and persistence. Sarah was incredibly proud, and with my new work-life balance as a senior analyst with a team to delegate to, our relationship got back on track. But I would be lying if I said I was not still angry for a while. The betrayal had cut deep, and I found myself replaying that conference room scene over and over, thinking about how Derek had looked Marcus in the eye and lied so smoothly. I started seeing a therapist to work through the feelings of violation and mistrust that lingered even after justice had been served. Gradually, though, I came to a realization. Derek's downfall had not come from luck or chance. It came from truth documentation and the courage to speak up even when I felt scared and uncertain. I learned to be meticulous about documenting my work, not out of paranoia but out of professional responsibility. I learned that trusting people does not mean being naive, and that verification protects everyone involved. Kyle told me one evening over beers, "You did not just stand up for yourself. You stood up for everyone Derek might have done this to in the future." That perspective helped me let go of the anger. 6 months after the whole ordeal began, I sat at my new desk in a corner office with windows overlooking downtown Seattle. On the large monitor mounted on the wall across from me, my dashboard ran continuously processing data for teams throughout the company. I watched the real-time analytics flow across the screen and felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The experience taught me that integrity matters more than short-term victories. Derek had won for a moment, but his dishonesty destroyed his career. Meanwhile, my honesty, even when it felt risky and scary, had built something lasting. I no longer felt angry at Derek. He had made his choices, and those choices had consequences he would live with. What mattered now was that I had proven to myself that I could face injustice and fight back effectively, not with aggression or revenge, but with truth and patience. Sometimes late at night when I am working on a new project, I think about that moment in the conference room when I first saw my work being stolen. I remember the feeling of helplessness and rage. But then I remember what came after the investigation, the vindication, the growth. The entire experience made me stronger and more confident in ways I never expected. I learned that your work speaks for itself, but sometimes you need to speak up for your work. And when you do, make sure you have the receipts to back it up. So let me ask you, have you ever had someone take credit for your work? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments because I would love to hear how others have dealt with workplace betrayal. If this story resonated with you, smash that like button and subscribe for more real workplace experiences. Share this with anyone who needs to hear that standing up for yourself is always worth it. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, integrity always wins in the long run. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.